Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news on top stories. I am Onyi Okbala. Let's begin. In a ceremony heavy with bomb but light on reconciliation, Prime Minister Joseph Dion Ngutey presided over the signing of a 500 million francs CFA tripartite agreement in Boya for the construction of a state-of-the-art stadium in Kumba Meme Division. The deal, signed between the Kumba City Council, the Société Anonyme des Bois de Cameroun, SABC, and the Presidential Plan for the Reconstruction and Development, PPRD, is being marketed as a symbol of peace, development, and national unity. But for many in Ambazonia, this announcement reopens wounds that are far from healed. To a population still reeling from years of bloodshed, displacement, and state-sanctioned violence, the stadium project feels like a step towards healing and more like a calculated distraction. In towns and villages across the English-speaking areas of Ambazonia, cries of mourning still echoes. Children have been gunned down in and on their ways to school. Entire communities touched into silence, and thousands forced to flee into the bush with nothing but trauma clinging to their backs. On social media and in community forums, Amazonian voices are rising not in celebration, but in grief and rage. You cannot build stadium over mass graves, wrote one activist. Another called the project a political theater, staged to whitewash the pain of a people still under siege. While government officials tout these developments as a milestone under the PPRD, critics argue it is an electioneering tactics, a concrete symbol meant to pave over the cries for justice, not answering them. As bulldozers prepare to break ground, many Amazonians are left wondering, who does the stadium really serve? And at what cost will it serve to the truth? Well, all these and more, we'll talk on tonight's Undaunted. But first, let's get the prime headlines. Here are the prime headlines for tonight. Unidentified gunmen opened fire at Bamenda snack bar and one found dead. La République du Cameroun army drags 2 men and summarily executes them at the Ntamulung neighborhood in Bamenda. Kumba Stadium Project Sparks outcry from Ambazonian community over La République du Cameroun manipulation. On the African scene, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has described the humanitarian crisis in Gaza as getting worse by the day. Also, Indian billionaire Gautam Adani under fresh investigation by U.S. Department of Justice over alleged Iran sanctions and violations. Now let's get the news in full briefings. Oh, well, last night a violent incident occurred in the Nkwem neighborhood of Bamenda, leaving a man tragically dead after unidentified gunmen assailants opened fire at the Asanji Plaza snack bar. This attack like several others, doesn't just raise serious security concerns, but serves as a reminder of the relentless gun violence that has become a horrifying familiar part of life in the Midland zone since the war in Ambazonia began 8 years ago. Around 8 p.m. last night, chaos erupted at the Sanji Plaza snack bar in Mile 4 Nkwim. Unidentified gunmen burst into the establishment and opened fire in the building. Mr. Sanji Melvin Tenen owns the bar, which was full of customers enjoying their evening when the attack unfolded. Eyewitnesses recall hearing multiple gunshots, immediately sparking panic as people scrambled to escape. Unfortunately, one man who was identified as a bike rider died instantly and several others sustained injuries. Eyewitnesses recounted that the assailant specifically asked about the bar owner before quickly fleeing the area. The identity of these gunmen remains unknown, and local authorities have launched an active investigation. This assault is particularly alarming, especially given that Mr. Tenen himself was a target just last August, barely serving an assassination attempt after being shot twice in an ambush. Such acts have unfortunately become a brutal norm in Bamenda since the crisis spiraled into open warfare. Well, with us tonight is our in-house analyst, Barrister Mbeseha, who will be here to analyze this report and a few others we got on the front burner today. We would want to find out what he thinks about this particular incident. Barrister Mbeseha, are you there?
I'm right here, and thank you for having me.
All right, thank you too. Your voice is loud and clear. It would be nice to see your face as well. But while we're working on that, what would you think? Do you think that this might be particular to the Ambazonian war, or you think that this might just be a different target? I mean, report here also stated that he was a target last year, August. Yes. So would you think that this is an isolated, target, or is in line with the Ambazonian conflict or war as we have it at the moment? What would you think?
It is an isolated incident. Now, I've had it to say here before. The whole Amazonia, be it in Bamenda, or in a war zone, and people will die. People will be killed. What is a war zone? In war zones, you can die from from strain by the bullets. You can from the weapons, from the bullets from the enemy, or even from just an adventurer. We have talked about the war economy. There are people who are using the war situation to make profit, to break into selling spots like a bar and steal the money. These war money makers do not exclude the military. The military have been caught red-handed, stealing, extorting from people. The question one must ask oneself is, about Bamenda, in a war situation, why should people take the risk of going to be dancing at midnight? That's not worth the trouble because you don't know what can happen to you at any time. Again, our streets are filled with armed groups. Armed groups that partially used by the regime to sow disorder. And so it is not an isolated incident. It happened in Bamenda, it happened in Kumba, it happened in Kumba, just as kind of in Kambe or Mamfi. And so it's a war, particularly in Bamenda. We have no high spike insecurity everywhere. Sponsored by the government. Yes, the people probably extort money for you for the color of your car. Who would extort money for because you are driving a car? Anything which impunity. Why? If there was the government in Bamenda, how do shootings left and right? Everything we've seen. We have not yet seen anybody who has been brought to book. We have not seen anybody charged for the insecurity. All we know is our government says we're investigating, and they continue to investigate, and no results will ever come out. Where on earth the government be investigating some of the things which are people are caught red-handed. And so it's a war situation. If strongly that the government is using insecurity as a weapon to neutralize Ambazonians. Yes, this is somebody dying in Bamenda. The same way you saw people being adopted in Bambili, in Bamboo, extorting money from. And so again, it happened in a particular part of Bamenda. It could happen anywhere. It could happen anywhere in Ambazonia because overall, Amazonia is a war. Overall, Yaoundé has realized, they've recognized the fact that they've lost the war. The only thing left for them is to use fear to the people, to the population. Why? Because this war is not mostly fought by Ambazonian State Army. No, they do a lot. But the ordinary fighters, the ordinary people who are confronting this regime are the civilians, those who enforce ghost towns, those who enforce lockdowns. And so they constitute part of our army, which they got to neutralize by using these tactics to frighten the citizens. Because it's a war being fought by everybody, and the Republic has nobody, they can identify the real enemies. And so they do everything possible to destroy us, at least as far as they can, before they go. Over to you.
Oh, thank you so much for that clarification. And I like how you analyze that. And so, moving on even into more insecurity, in a shocking and disturbing incident, the La Republic to Cameroun military army has been accused of dragging two men whose identities have not been disclosed and summarily executing them in the Ntamulung neighborhood of Bamenda. The incident occurred at dawn today, leaving residents in shock and outrage. Eyewitnesses report that the La Republic to Cameroun military personnel dragged the two men through the streets before executing them in a brutal and cold-blooded manner. The reasons behind the executions are yet to be disclosed, and the incident has sparked widespread condemnation. The incident has sent shockwaves through the community, with many residents expressing outrage and demanding justice for the victims. The neighborhood is filled with fear and anxiety as people struggle to come to terms with the brutality of the incident, given that the victims are not far from the areas. The incident has sparked calls for an immediate investigation into the actions of the military personnel involved. Many are demanding accountability and justice for the victims and their families. The incident is a reminder of the ongoing security challenges in Bamenda and the need for urgent action to address the root causes of the war, the conflict, and the global and colonial regime must refrain from the military option use. Vice Mbeseha, two men, civilians, their whereabouts not known. What would you say?
Well, I will only add that it goes again to show the extra effort the government and the security people would go to do what nobody else has done in the world. Even war is properly regulated by international conventions. And so killing people, even your opponent in war, when they are disarmed, is murder. That's extrajudicial killing. Even in the war front, when your opponent is carrying a weapon and lays down his or her weapon and carries up his or her hands, if you kill that guy, you are a criminal, you'll be charged in court. So that is extrajudicial killing. For whatever reason, this is not even the situation. They hunt people, take them out, slaughter them, execute them, in fact. They just execute them. Is this a military strategy? Of course, that's what they are using. Is this new? Certainly not. This is in Bamenda. Bamenda is not very far from Garubu. What happened with the admitted doing it is something similar to this. They did not only kill in Garubu, they killed in Garubu and they sought to hide the evidence by burning the corpses of the people they killed. This is all from their own records. They admitted it. And so the problem we face is The silence of the civil society, not the silence of the ordinary man in the street, not the silence of the ordinary woman in cocoyams or beans in the street. No, they are making a noise. That's why they are having the outcry. The silence of an organized civil society. What is an organized civil society in our own context? The organized civil society in our context includes religious organizations. Because, for example, in a town like Bamenda, the voice of the Archbishop is very, very important. It is heard worldwide. That's organized civil society. The voice of a pastor is heard worldwide. It's a religious organization. It is meaningful. And so when we see these things going on, we expect the civil society to act. The ordinary citizens are limited to their crying, to their weeping, to their sobbing and shedding tears. There's nothing more they can do more than that. Because they live in a society which is so destroyed, which has no meaning. They are not going to report to the gendarmes, the general of the administration. The police are part of the administration. One will wonder whether in that very town, is that not the very town Dele Afrik lives? Is that not the very town that will have so many prefects and sous-prefects appointed by presidential decree? Is that not the very town where the own colonial regional commander died just a few days ago, armed to the teeth? And so, again, this is organized insecurity. This is extrajudicial killings, which at the appropriate time, the actors, the perpetrators are going to be brought to book. The ICC is not asleep. The day is coming when everyone will be held accountable. Extrajudicial killings not accepted. Just like what happened in Kuzang Market when the ADF people shot those two guys. That was extrajudicial killing. What has happened now, when they drag somebody from outside and go and kill, is extrajudicial killing. Extrajudicial killing during war is not acceptable, no matter from where it comes. And so again, these are military again. They were in uniform. So all their actions bind their commanders. The best you hear from them, is that their investigations. And of course, investigations signal into anything in Cameroon. And so, and again, the ICC is not asleep. One day, they will to the ICC are imprescriptible. They follow you until death. And so, may that be the case on instance. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I was going to say that the killings, how long will these killings continue? But then let's get over to this other interesting, discussion. In another La République Cameroon event presided over by Prime Minister Joseph Dion Ngute, a tripartite agreement was officially signed in Boya between the Kumba City Council, the Society Anonymous, the Boyzone, the Cameroon, known as the SABC, and the Presidential Plan for the Reconstruction and Development, PPRD. The agreement signals the commencement of a 500 million francs CFA project to construct a state-of-the-art stadium in Kumba, Meme Division. So the signing ceremony was presented as a milestone in the government's ongoing efforts to revitalize the conflict-affected Ambazonian under the PPRD framework. Officials from SABC and the local council hailed the stadium as a symbol of peace development and national unity. Probably they think that's what the aim is, or they want to deceive the people that that's what their aim is. However, the announcement has triggered widespread skepticism and backlash from Ambazonians, particularly amongst Ambazonian activists, sympathizers, and those in diaspora. Many have taken to social media and the community forums to voice concerns over what they describe as a political smokescreen aimed at influencing upcoming elections. Some of the comments we saw goes as far as saying 5 million for a stadium, we need hospitals, not PR stunts. Well, critics argue that the proposed budget of 500 million francs CFA, which if we want to convert approximately 820,000 USD dollars in dollars, is woefully inadequate for constructing any genuine state-of-the-art stadium. Several commentators pointed out that such a budget is more appropriate for a modest community market or a recreational facility, but not a professional sports arena. Now, this is nothing but another white elephant project. If they couldn't fix Kumba District Hospital after it was burned, how can we trust them to build a stadium? This is asked by another commentator in diaspora. While other critics were very quick to reference similar high-profile infrastructure promises that never materialized, notably the Limbe Deep Seaport, which is a project that was ceremonially announced years ago but remains stalled. More persons went on to say, we've seen this before, groundbreaking ceremonies, ribbon cuttings, and endless media coverage, but nothing comes out of it. A trader from the Limbe said they just want to appear on camera to pacify and deceive Ambazonians. Well, amongst the most pressing concern raised was the glaring disconnect between the stadium project and the region's actual humanitarian needs. In the aftermath of years of conflicts, many communities in Ambazonia remain without access to adequate health care, clean water, or rebuilt schools. Ambazonians don't need stadium. According to them, we need hospitals, potable water, road, and electricity, said one social media commentator. Our children are still studying under trees, and our clinics have no medications. Political analysts also suggest that the timing of the stadium's announcement is no coincidence, pointing up to the upcoming elections in the Cameroons. The project is widely perceived by opposition voices as an electoral strategy meant to curry favor in the Anglophone regions, according to them, and create false sense of progress. But the regime is clearly trying to buy legitimacy in Ambazonia with flashy projects that are neither transparent nor community driven. Well, a political activist based in Boyer said they want to be seen as doing something, even if that something is meaningless. And so the growing distrust between the central government and Ambazonian communities continues to cast a long shadow over any government-backed development project in Ambazonia. With scars from the conflict still fresh and major post-conflict reconstruction efforts lagging, the station and stadium initiative appears to many as tone deaf at best and a cynical political maneuver at worst. Until the government demonstrates a genuine commitment to addressing the basic and urgent needs of the population, including rebuilding critical infrastructure like the burned down Kumba Hospital, symbolic gestures like the stadiums may do more harm than good in bridging the deep divide between Yaoundé and the people of southern Cameroons. A very long divide, we must say here. Rice Mbeseha. And so when we went through some of these comments, we saw so many persons, not even one person applauded this effort. They were wondering, how would they do this? Or it's just because elections are around the corner and they just want to, make some noise and let it be like, oh, we are here, we are doing something. Oh, we care about you. We are here to give you a state-of-the-art stadium. How feasible do you even think it is at this point? Hello, Barrister Mbeseha, are you there?
Yes, yes. Let me say this. Those people making these announcements, including Dion Gute, whoever they are, they must have become so stupid that they have lost their minds. Or, to use those words, they're in their normal minds and they believe that we, the ordinary citizens of Ambazonians, most particularly the ones in the so-called Southwest and Kumba, have become so stupid that they will believe in all those lies. They have exhausted their stock of lies. They have exhausted their stock of propaganda. You were trying to mention projects that they promised to do, and they never did. That's even too much. I was a witness when Paul Biya to Buya himself with his two legs in the 1990s and promised openly it was going to be a man in Victoria. 30, 40 years ago, that has not been done. Have people forgotten about that? No. But let us come to this. Just last week or 2 weeks ago, I reminded us that this is an election year. In an election year, these people will do everything that they think can hold water. This is what are they trying to do in Kumba? Talk about stadium in Kumba. If a stadium was built in Kumba, why would we launch a project? What was the correlation between Kumba and is it that Mr. Dion Gute, with all his armed forces behind him, could not sneak himself to Kumba to announce his project? It is just a lie. This is a very Kumba, where 2 weeks ago they were laying a foundation stone for a magazine, whatever thing, an industry to bottle gas, cooking, as if Kumba people needed a cooking gas filling station. This is a very regime that 2 weeks ago they were in Bamenda launching the same project for cooking gas bottling project. Who told them that Kumba and Bamenda need a gas filling? Is that what they need? Talking about Kumba, you have talked about the hospital. That is even too much. I happened to have gone to Kumba Hospital not too long ago and saw that in the Kumba Hospital, they don't even have a mortuary. They don't even have a bed on which they lay the dead people there. The dead who are brought to Kumba are placed out door shutters. How much does it cost to buy that bed? Maybe a plan one. We call less than 25,000. That's $50. They don't have. And so they come with these faulty election promises to convince you. I've said that they cannot exhaust the stock of lies. This is still Ambazonian on their promises. Is it not 6 months ago? The French ambassador twice to Bamenda and promised to rebuild the whole town with tons of money from France. 6 months into it, streets in Kumba are still what they are. Nothing has changed. What makes them think that in Bamenda or Kumba, anywhere in Ambazonia? Absolutely nothing. Who told them that Kumba needs a stadium? What are they doing with the stadium? Do they have water to drink? Isn't it very Kumba where last week we saw people demonstrating out there that they have no electricity? Not because the poles are not, the poles that were there have all fallen on people's houses, the wooden poles, and they cannot replace them. They come and claim to sign a contract, and people clap. This is Kumba, where we have found foolery, stupidity exhibited to the peak of stupidity, of ignorance, of propaganda. This is Kumba, where last week we saw somebody, I saw somebody on a program calling himself the chief of Barumbi to justify why chiefs should go and march, claiming to defend the administration. The old administration was all right. Again, this is Kumba. Kumba is just part of the bigger Ambazonia. The deceit in Kumba is not unusual. It's the same deceit. I've seen them in places like coming with electric poles and dumping them there, claiming to want to put electricity. That has never existed there forever, ever. It is, if this is not election campaign, what else is it? But the problem is not the propaganda. Propaganda is part of politics. The problem should lie with us, with the people of Kumba, with the people of Bamenda, the people of anywhere in Ambazonia, to realize that all what Paul Biya has done, everything put together, even if we were together with them, if we were to be part of Cameroun, it has been a deceit, from one to the other. A deceit wholesale. Even if we were considered to be part of that country, nothing there has worked. No promise has ever been kept. And so, again, there's nothing impossible with Cameroun. There's nothing impossible with anybody who follows them. The least I expected was to find people like that. Dion Gute, who has a doctorate degree in his back, who is a lawyer, to come out and be schemed in that way. He's scamming himself. He's burning himself to death. Again, what prevented Dion Gute with all his military forces to sneak to Kumba? Even to go back to his own village for a day, just to say good morning, Papa, good morning, Auntie. He could not do it. He came to Boya under that charade. He says what he says, But he does one thing. He ends up, if I follow his visit to Boy correctly, he say, well, I acknowledge that there's still trouble here. That is from his own mouth. That's the good thing. He acknowledged that there is no security. He acknowledged that there's nothing like a return to normalcy. And therefore, his whole project of coming to Boy, which officially we were told was to deal with reconstruction, has failed woefully. If from his own mouth, the head of government is that the problems are still there. He said, those problems, man, they will end when we go to the conference table and address the root causes of the problem. They will end where they started. They started in 1961 with this fraudulent assimilation of Ambazonia. Until we restore our statehood, we restore our institutions, shall we be able to build our own stadiums? Shall we be able to put our own gas plants where we need them? Shall we be able to fix our streets, not depending on funds from Yaoundé, not depending on funds from Paris through the ambassador of France? Again, this is a charade of intelligent people, let me not call them stupid, thinking that those of us who follow them have become so stupid that we believe in what they are saying. No, sir, we're not that stupid. Rather, it is those people who are so stupid to believe that we cannot see their lies in open daylight. Over to you.
Mbeseha, one more question before I let you go. Do you think that this has a lot to do with the elections around the corner? If yes, are you surprised that from the backlash that they got, are you surprised that Ambazonians are beginning to wake up and are not being carried away by some of these strategic moves or manipulative
Well,
moves, as we may call it?
well, well, I've said it before. This is electioneering. This is election campaign. And we've not yet seen it. We're still at the tip of the iceberg. There's more to come. More lying, more propaganda will come. Because they still believe that even in a fair election, they can win an election. It's pure electioneering, it's pure election manipulating people to vote them. They have never been voted before, but they can use this one to claim that they were voted into power. Again, the good thing is that from the reaction of people we saw there reacting on social media, at least almost everybody realized lies. They're just lying. Even the unionists, those who believe in one Cameroun, they're lying. Even federalists, they're lying. Because no federalist living in Kumba has asked them to give them to give them a stadium. No unionist living in Kumba or Bamenda or wherever has asked for a gas filling station. So this is fraud, absolute fraud over the majority. It is electioneering. Again, people have realized it. They will not believe it. They can steal elections for those who will do it. Those of us sitting here will have nothing to do with elections. But those who are concerned with the elections and the electioneering thing, well, like it or not, they will win the elections. But where they win or not, it's not the problem of Amazonia. For who are gone, we conduct our own elections, choose our own leaders the way we want when the appropriate moment comes. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much. But before we let you go, we'd want you to emphasize again government's position on elections. When issues like this come forth, people tend to probably, forget what the government's position, the Ambazonian state government's position is on elections and those that shouldn't support elections. Please, let's hear it from you.
Again, I will combine that election thing with the events that happen and the civil society. Because we have a civil society that refuses to be open to the right thing. This is election. Again, an online man in the street of Kumba or Bamenda or wherever will go to vote on the day. But this electioneering goes on with other things that are going on. We expect the civil society to cry out against these things. They say no. Because if there's water in Kumba, for example, if there are lights in Kumba, Concentrate or talk about the church. In Kumba, in terms of the culture, they have a whole bishop sitting there. It's like Bamenda, you have an archbishop. You have all these pastors sitting there. Let these people cry out. Because these churches, for example, are the ones that preach peace, they preach security. When they adopt people and go and kill them, they should cry out. Their voice is important. When they do what they are doing, let these churches cry out. The same like they cry, they pretend to cry that we stop schools from functioning. And so we expect to see a vibrant civil society. Not you and me, not the ordinary man in the street. No, that does not constitute a viable civil society. In terms of Cameroon, or in terms of Ambazonia, viable civil society are the churches, the organized groups, because they can speak with impunity, because they can tell the truth as they see it. Again, let them not just tell people to go and register to go and vote. As far as this is concerned, they should also tell people to verify the promises which have been made. Because the churches are preaching, go register to vote, go register to vote. Under these circumstances, will a good civil society, will a religious organization say that that is a climate for somebody to go register and vote? Vote for what and how? Again, this is election. All of us are. In terms of politics, I think Ambazonians, at least the ones of the earlier generation, electioneering more than that. We saw multi-parties. And so we know they are lying. But what do we do in those lies? Hold them accountable in whatever way you can. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. And it's at this point that would, let you go, because we know that tomorrow you will definitely still join this conversation, as we'll be bringing you the latest and all of the reports coming in from the home front. Thank you so much for being part of Undaunted tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, meanwhile, we got this information this afternoon, June 2nd, 2025, around 2 p.m., where a child was discovered alone near a Mile 4 junction in Nchang Quarter. Concerned residents found the boy stranded on the street and brought him to the quarterhead's compound for safety. Witnesses describe the child as having difficulty speaking, and suspects says he may have a hearing impairment. His condition has raised alarms among community members who are eager to ensure his well-being. Local authorities and community leaders are urging anyone who recognizes this child who you're seeing on the screen or has any information about his family to come forward, as this may help the child reunite with his family or guidance as quickly as possible. The name of the child wasn't gotten, but here you have the image, and we are sure that by the end of this night and tomorrow, he should have reunited with his family. All right, that's all for tonight's Undaunted, but coming up in jiffy is news across Africa. Well, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has described the humanitarian crisis in Gaza as getting worse by the day. Speaking on Monday, Starmer emphasized their condition in the besieged Palestinian enclave, where ongoing violence and restrictions on humanitarian access have left over 2 million residents in desperate need of food, medicine, and shelter. To be absolutely clear, the situation in Gaza is intolerable, Starmer said. It is getting worse by the day. This is an urgent need to ensure that more humanitarian aid reaches those who need it most and that the violence stops. That means we need a ceasefire now. Well, his remarks came in the wake of reports from health officials and international humanitarian organizations, which confirmed that at least 31 people were killed and around 200 others wounded on Sunday alone. As Israeli military operations intensifies in part of the Gaza Strip, the mountain casualties have further fueled international calls for a cessation of hostilities and greater protection for civilians. Starmer's comments reflects growing pressure on Western leaders to take a firmer stance on the crisis, particularly as aid agencies warn that the risks of famine, disease, and further mass displacement is becoming increasingly likely in the absence of immediate action. The Prime Minister also reiterated the UK's commitment to working with international partners to facilitate humanitarian corridors and support diplomatic efforts aimed at achieving a sustainable ceasefire. However, critics have urged the British government to go further by reassessing arms sales to Israel and increasing its aid contribution. The conflict has drawn widespread condemnation for its toll on civilians, with the United Nations and various NGOs repeatedly stressing that all parties must adhere to international humanitarian law and ensure the protection of non-combatants. As the violence continues, Starmer's government faces increasingly scrutiny over its response, with lawmakers, human rights groups, and segments of the British public demanding more decisive leadership in addressing the humanitarian catastrophe unfolding in Gaza. Meanwhile, a newly appointed Sudanese Prime Minister Camille Idris has called on international actors to halt their support for the Rapid Support Forces, labeling such a backing as criminal operation that threatens Sudan's national security and sovereignty. In a forceful address from Port Sudan on Sunday, Idris emphasized the government's resolve to eliminate the RSF and other insurgent groups, declaring Sudanese national security and state authorities are completely upheld by eliminating the rebellion and all forms of insurgent militias. He went on to urge nations allegedly supporting these militias to completely ease these criminal operations, warning that Sudan would target those who plan, finance, or collaborate in such activities. Idris, a former diplomat and international civil servant, was appointed prime minister amid ongoing conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the RSF, a paramilitary group accused of widespread abuses. A while away from Sudan, let's get into India in the news across the globe. Well, in India, Indian billionaire Gautam Adani is reportedly under fresh investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice for possible violations of U.S. sanctions on Iran. According to a Wall Street Journal report published today, the probe focuses on whether Adani's companies imported liquefied petroleum gas originating from Iran, potentially breaching U.S. sanctions laws. This development comes amid ongoing legal challenges faced by Adani Group executives. Well, in November 2024, the DOJ, I beg your pardon, issued a 5-count criminal indictment against Gautam Adani, his nephew Sagar Adani, and other executives, charging them with bribery, securities fraud, and wire fraud related to alleged schemes to defraud U.S. investors and global financial institutions. The Adani Group has consistently denied all allegations, labeling them as baseless and emphasizing their commitment to legal compliance. The company has also engaged an independent global law firm to review its policies and establish a dedicated compliance team to oversee anti-bribery and corruption efforts. The latest investigation adds to the scrutiny surrounding Adani Group's international operation and could have significant implications for conglomerate business dealings in the United States and beyond. Away from India, let's head into Israel, where in a world first, Israel has successfully used a high-powered laser weapon in active combat to intercept enemy drones, the Ministry of Defense confirmed. Now, the system, a prototype of the forthcoming Iron Beam defense platform, was deployed during ongoing clashes with Hezbollah along the Lebanese border. Developed by Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, The laser system marks a breakthrough in modern warfare, offering rapid, precise, and ultra-low-cost interceptions compared to a traditional missile-based defense. Each laser shot costs just a few dollars and can neutralize aerial threats such as drones, rockets, and mortar shells. This historic deployment signals a major shift in the battlefield defense technology, and positions Israel at the forefront of directed energy weaponry. Defense analyst says that their achievement could accelerate global interest in laser-based systems amid rising drones threats worldwide. All right, and with that report from Israel, we'll wrap up tonight's Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the major highlights. All right, tonight on Undaunted, we told you that unidentified gunmen opened fire at Bamenda snack bar and it had left one dead. Also tonight, La Republic de Cameroun army dragged two men and summarily executes them at the Ntamulung neighborhood in Bamenda. We told you tonight that in Ambazonia, the Kumba Stadium Project has sparked a whole lot of outcry where Ambazonian communities are saying it is La Republic de Cameroun's manipulation. While on the African scene, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, has described the humanitarian crisis in Gaza as getting worse by the day, where Indian billionaire Gautam Adani under fresh investigation by U.S. Department of Justice over alleged Iran sanctions and violations. That was on the foreign scene. All right, special thanks to our in-house analyst barrister team Mbeseha and of course the team of technicians for being very up with tonight's production. It's good night and God bless.